everyone. I'm Kara Minowie. This is ShellPoint Today for Thursday, January 16th. On today's show, we learn the 10 questions you should ask yourself to gauge whether assisted living can improve your life. We'll also talk to Charles Shepson, who helped to start a church in Minnesota that recently celebrated its 50th anniversary. But first, a few quick tech reminders. Is your TV getting all the channels it should? If you have an old TV that is not picking up all the channels, or if you bought a brand new TV and are having trouble setting it up, help is available for you. Dial the one-call Does-It-All number of 454-2190, and the call center will send someone to your home to make sure your TVs are programmed and set up properly. Again, if you're having TV reception issues, call the call center at 454-2190. What if it's your computer that's having problems? Well, that's a bit more complicated because there are many things that could be wrong. For example, Microsoft has a new operating system called Windows 8, and it takes some getting used to. You can learn all about Windows 8 from Mike Peterson of Computer Medics, who will be speaking at the Computer Club this afternoon at 2:15 p.m. in the Manatee Room on the island. All are welcome. We now shift our attention to your health needs. In this month's issue of ShellPoint Life, we detail all the healthcare solutions ShellPoint provides, including 3 assisted living facilities. Now, you may think of assisted living as something you eventually have to do, but actually it's driven by choice, not need. The people that choose to go to assisted living find that their lives are much improved, easier, and happier. How do you know if you should consider assisted living? We've come up with an easy 10-question test.
Hi everybody, it's Jared Pike here with ShellPoint TV, and today we're talking about assisted living. And with me is ShellPoint's assisted living specialist, McKenzie Millis. How are you, McKenzie?
I'm good, Jared.
And assisted living is a big topic at ShellPoint because we have 3 assisted living facilities. But talk about the decision to move into assisted living. Who is it led by?
It's definitely individual. It's a matter of when is it right for you. We never want to see an assisted living decision made in the midst of a crisis. We really want residents to be proactive in making that move to improve their quality of life.
So it's a good thing, but when do you move? And it's a personal decision for everybody.
It is. One of the things that we've done is we really have tried to educate residents to understand what is assisted living and then give themselves some questions to ask to help them determine when should I be thinking about it? And is that decision maybe in the near future, or do I have some time and it's not something I need to worry about today?
Well, I happen to have those questions right here. There are 10 questions, and we want people to ask themselves these questions. We'll just go through them one at a time. Number 1, do you have a fear of falling and worry there will be no one there to help? Now, this is a concern?
It is. It's definitely a concern. One of the nice things about independent living is residents have that emergency pull cord. So they can pull in the case of emergency, whether it's a fall or any kind of health crisis. But a lot of the concerns come into, if I was to fall and I can't reach that, how long am I going to be on the floor for? How am I going to know that? What is the response time going to be in terms of an emergency? And in assisted living, it's a much smaller and precise response time because we have staff in the building 24 hours a day to help.
And they're always checking up. That's wonderful. Number 2, do you forget to take your medications? Now, medications are a big deal for people.
They are. And the second question I always ask is not only do you forget to take your medications, but do you know what each one of your medications is for? With the healthcare system today, it's very important for residents to be proactive in caring for their health. And part of that is knowing what you are taking and when you're taking it and why. And if you're finding yourself slipping a little bit, there's great news. Assisted living and the nurses in our assisted living facilities can help with that, whether it's pill box or nurse administration of medications.
That's great. That's great. Number 3, do you struggle getting ready in the morning? This is a big one.
It is. And it's kind of a 2-part. It's energy management. How much time are you spending with kind of the chores of the day, that grind of getting ready? Are you finding the activities calendar on a daily basis? You're choosing the activities that start a little bit later in the day because you just can't make it to that 9 o'clock fitness class or that 10 a.m. educational program. In assisted living, we've got staff that can help you.
Number 4, do you feel lonely or depressed? So the emotional factor plays in.
The emotional factor definitely plays in, and it's also related to that. If you're struggling a little bit, you're probably not getting out and about as easily as you used to. In assisted living, we have a full-time activities leader that plans enough programming that you can stay active in the assisted living building, but you still have the whole Shell Point community available to you.
It's impossible to be lonely in those assisted living facilities. Number 5, is your home less clean and tidy than it used to be? Interesting.
Yes, and are the dishes and the laundry becoming a burden? Those are things that we often find. With the housekeeping that's provided by Shell Point, you get a little bit of assistance, but the laundry and the dishes are the two that we often find as the areas that people struggle to keep up with. Or for couples, maybe one person used to be the primary provider of those services, and now because of health roles, the situation's changed and now someone else is being responsible. We take all of that burden away with assisted living services, and then we can add to it by also making your bed on a daily basis, which is
that would be wonderful. I would love to take advantage of that. Number 6, do you fear losing your balance in the shower? Now tell us about that.
You know, it's a scary thing, even if you haven't fallen. If you're unsteady on your feet, often getting out of bed in the middle of the night with no one there to help and getting in and out of the shower are the most difficult portions of the day. And often, if you have had a fear, that fear of refalling, or you know the statistics against falling and how dangerous they are for seniors, that it really, people find themselves not showering as frequently as they used to. And that's a shame, because it's such an important thing of personal hygiene and dignity that we want residents to be able to get the care they need, even if it requires a little bit of more support than they have previously needed.
And assisted living can provide as much or as little support as a person needs.
Yes.
Number 7, have you been losing weight or experienced a decrease in appetite? Now, this is one people might not have thought about.
No, and often people don't think about it, and it's such an important thing. Not only is medications one of the main reasons we see people move into assisted living, but it's the dining. In assisted living, having 3 meals per day provided to you is a huge resource. Rita Southern, our director of assisted living, has always referred to it as the tea and toast. A lot of times, seniors, to make it easy for themselves, will take what they used to love as far as this wide variety of fruits and vegetables and meats, and they'll start sacrificing that for convenience and energy management, and all of a sudden they don't realize it, but they've been eating tea and toast for way too many meals in a row. And once they get to assisted living, they're able to have all of those options available to them.
And I've been in those assisted living facilities. There's food on every corner. You can't pass by without a snack being there, which is great. Number 8, do you find it uncomfortable to drive, or are others concerned about your driving?
Yeah, and that's not to say that when you move into assisted living you give up your car by any means. So I don't want people to be confused by this one. But if you are finding yourself struggling a little bit, or you find that others are concerned about your driving, you might really find it beneficial to have things like meals taken care of, to have your doctor's appointments coordinated. And that takes away some of the necessity in driving, but then when you are driving, it can be for more leisure and recreational features. But the other side of it is Shell Point has an amazing transportation system. So I would encourage any resident to use that to their liking.
So you keep your independence, just all the hassles
take care of.
Get taken care of. I love it. Number 9, have you stopped attending many of the social activities you once loved? Now, you've seen this?
Yes, very much so. We often say isolation is the enemy of positive aging, and it is such a key thing to keeping us motivated, to keeping us happy, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And socialization can provide all of those things. And our activities leaders really help us to make sure that that's taken care of.
It's taking care of mind, body, and spirit, we'll call it. Number 10, have you had a recent hospitalization? Now, this is just a simple one.
Yeah, it really is a simple one. And what I always ask people to say is, okay, so you've had a recent hospitalization. Now, would that situation have been different if you had been living in assisted living? Would the response time have been quicker? Would it have been less stressful? And most importantly, is there any chance it could have been prevented? Often we'll find that people will end up in the hospital, not proper nutrition, not taking medications properly. And it's a real shame to see because it's something that might have been prevented. So that's always a really important one to look at.
So there's your 10 questions. And if you have these concerns, if these are coming up for you in your life, then it may be time to ask yourself, assisted living can provide all these needs. Now, the best way to learn about assisted living is to call your case manager. Now, if you don't know your case manager, you can always call Resident Support Services at 454-2299 to find out more. Take advantage of it, folks, because you can improve your life and your independence at the same time with assisted living. So for ShellPoint TV, this is Jared Pike.
The healthcare issue of ShellPoint Life covered a lot of departments, but there is one department you might not even know about, our Medicare billing department. They can help you with any of your Medicare needs. For example, if you received a new insurance card in the mail, then you need to bring it to the medical center so that we can photocopy it and make sure the proper insurance is being billed for your care. Also, if you signed up for a Medicare Advantage plan but find it doesn't meet your needs, there's actually a disenrollment period this month where you can make the switch to original Medicare. Learn all your options by calling our Medicare billing office at 454-2202. Well, we had a lot of fun watching the weather on TV last week, hearing them talk about the polar vortex. For people who grew up in, say, Minnesota, 55 below is just another chilly day. We're going back to those days with Charles Shepson, who got involved in a new church in Minnesota 50 years ago. There, he also became best friends with Leon Bowman, who is also a ShellPoint resident. Let's hear Dr. Shepson's story.
I was born in New Jersey and reared there, and then moved from there to Minneapolis area. My dad was a railroad man. He repaired passenger cars, so we had passes. We could go anywhere in the United States. As far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a pastor. However, my parents separated and I became the head of the home at about 12 years of age, too young for working papers. However, I did get a job. I worked at a chemical factory in the office. I had a desk there at the offices. So I grew up fast. I went to Nyack College in Nyack, New York, and took the Bible and Theology program in preparation for the ministry. Had a little hard time getting in because I had dropped out of high school in order to support the family, and they finally let me in on probation to see whether I could do college work or not. So I graduated from college. I graduated from high school one day and from college the next day, because I did it by means of the various tests that you can take and get your high school equivalency certificate. My first pastorate, people would come to the door and say, "Is the pastor at home?" And I would say, "I am the pastor." Or they would say, "Is your father in?" So it was a bit of a problem at first. The president of St. Paul Bible College approached me and asked if I would come and replace the man who taught pastoral methods and homiletics there. He had passed away and they needed somebody urgently. And I, by that time, had my master's degree from New York University, so they had me come, and then I kept on working toward my doctorate right while I was teaching. We had heard about the snow and how heavy it was and all, and how cold the winters were, and those things were true, but not the first year that we were there. We had a very mild winter the first year we were there, which was a delight to us. It was a good way to get acclimated. There was a young couple, his name Martin Paulette, and they were holding Bible studies in their home in a suburb of Minneapolis. And it grew to 15, 18, 20 people, and they decided, that little group, that they'd like to establish a church in that area. And so they wanted someone to come and preach for them, and I agreed to go Sunday mornings and evenings as just to be a part-time type pastor, just the preaching pastor, not there during the week because I was busy at the Bible college during the week. In the morning, we met at the Morris Bay Elementary School, and then for the evening services, we met at Peace Lutheran Church. We rented the church for the evening services. It was exciting, because during the time I was there, it grew to the extent that when we left only because they called their first full-time pastor, and we were already drawing up plans for their first building. So it was just exciting to see rather rapid growth there. One Sunday night, after the evening service, we locked up the church, went out into the parking lot, and were visiting with the remaining people in the rather dark parking lot. I had been packing up the station wagon, and I laid my Bible, my very precious Bible, because it had notes from the years of sermons in it. I laid it on the top of the vehicle while I put some things in, fully intending, of course, to put it inside, and completely forgot it. We climbed in our vehicle, and we headed out to the freeway. We traveled 55 miles an hour. There were trucks, semis that passed us and rocked our own vehicle, and there were two rough patches of road and round corners, and finally we arrived at our home, and I stepped out, and there was the Bible on top. Hadn't moved an inch, and the open side of it was toward the front. The binding was toward the rear. It was catching all that wind, and it had never moved. And to this day I envision an angel sitting on top of the car with his hand firmly on top of the Bible, keeping it in place until we got home. One of the best things that happened for me was that in that congregation, the Word of Life Church, was a couple by the name of Leon and Arliss Bowman. Arliss Bowman was on the marimba. Leon Bowman led the singing. For such a little church to have such talented musicians was wonderful, and it helped to draw people because they liked a good music program. Before ever going there, my wife and I had sat down together one day and said, you know, we don't have any close friends, really close. We have lots of friends, but no close friends. Wouldn't it be nice if there'd be a couple where he would become my best friend and she would become your best friend? And when there's something that you want, God encourages you to ask for it. And so we did. We put it on our prayer list. Lord, let us find the couple of our dreams. And when we went to that church, Leon and Arliss became for us the ones we had asked for. And now here it is 50 years later, and we are the best of friends. We traveled all through Europe together on a vacation. We've been to the Holy Land together. We went to South America together, and we became such good friends that we even drew up wills in which if anything happened to either couple, the other couple would take the children and rear them. So Leon and Arliss Bowman are now living here at Shepson from Teledora here now. The Lord very specifically answered that prayer at the Word of Life Church. It kind of came out of the blue. In fact, the congregation had grown to the point where I knew hardly anyone anymore that had been there when I was there. So when his invitation came to come the first weekend of May for their 50th anniversary, I was startled to realize, was that really 50 years ago? I'm delighted with that. That's why we start churches, because we want them to be an ongoing blessing. It makes me feel really good talking about Word of Life. Pleased about that.
It's time now to cover all of today's happenings from Resort Services. Then after your Academy news and menus, stay tuned for Village Church Connections.
Thank you for tuning in with us today, the happening segment of Shell Point TV. My name is Leslie Brand, and I'm here with Bev Chanley. And Resort Service has tons of activities going on this Thursday, so make sure you tune in and pick out what you'd like to do. We're going to start bright and early at 7:15 with the Health Connections, Bend, Breathe, and Balance at the Health Club on the island. Men's Golf Association is at 8 o'clock in the Shell Point Golf Club. Also at 8 o'clock is the Round Robin Men's Doubles Tennis at the tennis courts. Current events is at 9:30 in the game room at the Woodlands. And the ladies match play tennis at the tennis courts is at 9:30. At 9:30, the Paddlers Club is meeting for their weekly paddle at the kayak storage facility on the island. And lastly, at 9:30 is Samba, the card game, at the Sable Room. Introduction to beginning line dancing is at 9:45 in the Health Club. The Suzy Q is going out to Woody's for lunch at 10 o'clock. Make sure you call the greeter's desk to sign up for that. And at 10:15, the basic line dancing is going to be held in the Health Club. Now here's Bev to tell everyone the afternoon activities for today.
Thank you, Leslie. At 12:45, you'll find Mahjong being played in the Library Lounge. At 1:15, we have the Butterfly Garden Committee meeting. That'll meet at the Butterfly Garden. 1:15 is the time the shuffleboard players will be down at the shuffleboard courts. And also, at 1:15, we have the Spot Play Readers. That's Shell Point's own theater, and they'll be in the Osprey Room on the island. We'll skip to 2 o'clock, where the Pavilion Auxiliary Annual Meeting will be held in the Grand Cypress Room. And then at 2:15, the Computer Club will be in the Manatee Room. 2:45, we have a Health Connections class. This one is Balance and Mobility Training Level 2. That'll be in the Health Club. That's currently full. And at 4 o'clock, we'll have our seamstress here for her weekly service, and she'll be in the Osprey Room on the island. At 4:30, the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting will be in the Sable Room at the Woodlands. A couple of 7 o'clock activities today. We have a Pinnacle in the Library Lounge, and we also have a 7 o'clock Trailblazers Bible study. That'll be held in the Game Room of the Woodlands. Well, we're sure glad you joined us today, and we will be back here tomorrow for the weekend edition of the Happening segment.
Hi, I'm Terry Koleth with your Academy information for Thursday. Today we have a lot of classes continuing. At 9:15, Math for Those Who Never Liked Math continues in the Hospitality Room of the Village Church. At 1 o'clock, Story Writing continues in the Buttonwood Room of the Woodlands. Also at 1 o'clock, Apple iPad e-Reader continues in the Oak Room of the Woodlands. And then at 1:15, our Skype Basics computer class continues in the Computer Teaching Center on the island. At 2 o'clock, our Shellflowers class will be continuing in the Sable Room of the Woodlands. Tomorrow, we have Academy on the Go number 2 to the Calusa Nature Center and Planetarium show.
Menus for Thursday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is apple stuffed pork chops with yellow rice and broccoli. The dinner special is the Crystal Carving Board for $11.95, and the soup of the day is broccoli cheddar bacon. In the Island Cafe for lunch, enjoy a grilled ham and cheese panini with onion rings for $7.25. The dinner special is Thai night for $8.25. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill on Thursday are New York Strip for $19.95 or stuffed squid for $15.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Hi, welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm Andy Hawkins, the senior pastor of the Village Church, and this is a great time of the year here at Shell Point. The humidity has diminished, but the population is expanding. And here at the Village Church, we're excited that the season is fast approaching, and we have some exceptional opportunities planned for worship, service, and fellowship. I've been here just since February, and I want you to know just how much we love living in South Fort Myers and working in the Shell Point retirement community. We certainly love the community, and we love the church, and we are delighted to minister here. And there are several dimensions of the Village Church that I especially appreciate, and I'd like to spend a few moments sharing them with you. First of all, the Village Church is a church that proclaims the forgiveness and reconciliation that is only available in Jesus Christ. The person and work of Christ are central to the message of the Bible and of the Village Church. And as a pastor, I'm glad that we worship, teach, and fellowship in a Christ-centered community. In the final analysis, we find our meaning in life not in ourselves, but in our relationship with Christ. And once we're reconciled to God through Christ, we have the capacity to be genuinely reconciled to one another. We no longer need to regard anyone as an outsider. We regard everyone with spiritual eyes, seeing everyone through the eyes of a loving God, a God who so loved the world that He gave His only Son. Second, the Village Church is a place of hope. Clearly, there are challenges in growing older. We've all lost something, and we continue to lose something, and it's easy to be discouraged. But the message of the Bible and of the Village Church is that there is always hope. hope of healing, hope of restoration in relationships, and especially a hope of an eternal destiny of love in Jesus Christ. And ever since we've been here, we've sensed that the Village Church people are a hopeful, optimistic people, all because of Christ. And finally, the Village Church proclaims a message of purpose. God is not finished with any of us yet. He gives meaning to our lives, meaning which will carry us into eternity. And we can approach each day knowing that God has a purpose for it, and a purpose for us as He works out His redemptive plan in us, in our community, and in our world. And it's exciting to know that we can be involved in a congregation that is convinced that we can affect the kingdom of God and the world for redemptive purposes. And those are just some of the reasons why I love ministering here at the Village Church. So if you've just returned from Points North, welcome home. And if you don't already have a church home, we hope that you'll consider coming to the Village Church. We are a place of forgiveness, hope, and purpose, and we're confident you'll find encouragement here. We meet every Sunday morning at 10:15. Our services are broadcast live on Shell Point Television on Channel 12, and then it's repeated 3 times a day on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Channel 13. We hope you'll find a home here in our worshiping community at the Village Church.
We're glad you joined us for today's show. Tune in tomorrow as we meet David and Betty Constance, who changed lives in South America thanks to the work of Shell Point's Stamp Ministry. Until then, this is Shell Point Today for Thursday, January 16th. I'm Kara Minowie. From all of us here at Shell Point TV, we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.